Hello everybody, I'm really glad you can make it here today. If you're new around here, thanks for dropping by. And if you're returning, well, it's good to see you again. I really do appreciate you. So, I'm not going to be angry on camera this time, but I will be talking about that Mark 6 I did, but more specifically, the paintwork. And because it's a desert vehicle, yep, that means Caunter Camouflage. Well, I don't know about you guys, but Caunter has always sort of scared me for the longest time, up until quite recently. Here's quite a hassle to do with an airbrush, but if you're like me and don't have one of those things, well, you get the idea. But a month or two ago, I actually managed to pull it off by brush. Although, let's just see how that Mark 6 turns out. Well, enough of me talking, let's go check out that paintwork. So before I switch things over to Mark 6, I wanted to show my last Caunter paint job and give a few pointers. I'm actually quite proud of this one, even though it's not perfect, most notably on these lines. And yes, I do know that the blue is totally wrong. I just really like the look of the blue. I think one of the most important things when painting this camouflage pattern is to have a reference from as many angles as possible. And if the reference is in color, even better. However, a color reference doesn't automatically mean success. The paint guide for the Crusader was in color and I messed some stuff up along the way. And I know this seems quite obvious, but I mean, Caunter is, it's much more difficult to freehand as opposed to, some other camouflage patterns, say the German ones, or even those French ones. But anyways, in regards to the actual painting itself, it really helps to start small, if that makes sense. Instead of painting your shapes, and your lines exactly what they're supposed to be, paint them a bit smaller, or rather, paint them slightly inwards from where they're actually supposed to end up. I found this helpful since I always manage to mess things up. It's a lot easier to clean up your work that way. And it's not just cleaning up your mistakes, it makes painting the straight edges a lot more accurate too. At least that's what I found. For example, let's take a look at this turret, right? We have this darker, like grayish blue, and then this lighter blue, right? Instead of starting this, right here where it actually ends up, I started things, slightly inwards. And the same thing goes with the darker color. And because of this, it makes finalizing the angle a lot easier to do. And because you can finalize your angle a lot later in the painting process, you can make things a lot straighter too. And another thing, in regards to cleanup, because, you're not painting these two shapes, exactly butting up against one another, when you inevitably mess up, or rather, when I inevitably mess up, you don't have so many layers of paint on top of each other. And although, this won't really matter in bigger scales, like 48th even and, 35th scale, in 72nd, when, things are a lot smaller, just thicker paint layers, they really open up the possibilities of obscuring paintwork. Well, anyways, enough of this Crusader, let's switch things over to that Mark 6. What I'm doing right now is mixing the base tone, that would be the Portland stone, and I get that it's kind of boring to see me pick out colors in real time, but that is just part of the painting process. I'd also like to add that I mix all my colors without any pre-selected paint ratios, and I actually don't have any, colors that I just use out of the bottle really. Well, I'm starting off with Vallejo's Flesh Tone, and I really love this color. It's a good way to lighten up your paints without using white, and I feel that because it has more color than white does, you can get a bit more depth than you do by using white. It doesn't, lighten things up and leave them looking dead. I'm also using Vallejo's Khaki, and that is in 1-to-1 with that flesh color. Quick side note about the colors I mix, they are not spot on. I'm not the guy who cares about that sort of thing. My colors are not historically accurate, they are historically adequate. So those two colors are mixed, and I'm going to add a third one. Now this is something I never do again in this video, mixing two colors before adding a third, And what I'm going to be adding now is Vallejo's dark yellow. In my opinion, their dark yellow is totally wrong if you want to get Dunkelgelb. I feel that it's a bit too bright, a bit too green. Now this isn't based on historical accuracy, this is just my personal opinion. But yeah, it doesn't really work for that matter, but if you're doing, say, a desert base color, or maybe just adding a bit more depth toward a green you want to lighten, I think it works fine. Here I am starting to lay down that base color. As you can see, I'm just trying not to put too much of it in one place at once. I'm really concerned about having thick coats of paint, and this isn't really helped by there being multiple camouflage colors on this type of vehicle. I also want to apologize about that blurry thing in the lower right hand screen. That's part of my camera setup, and I eventually fix it, but it is what it is. So what I'm doing right now is just putting the base color on the turret, and oh look, that blurry thing is gone. So what I'm doing right now is mixing the first of two camouflage colors, the lighter one, that would be the silver gray, and spoiler alert, this is my first of two attempts. I believe my first mix was a bit too blue for my taste, and I am painting this over several days, so I can look at a previous night's work and then think, am I going to go with that color or am I just going to make a new one? So I'm starting off with green gray, and my original plan was to just lighten this up with white, but as I said before, it just totally backfired. It was weird though. It really looked fine when I was working on it at the time. I guess that's what happens when your main way of looking at a project is through a camera and you're really tired because you're recording these things at 12 in the morning. But I mean, enough of that, let's get back to the painting. I'm about to start applying the silver gray, and I'm just taking a while to figure out where I'm going to start applying this pattern. Starting is the first step after all, and I eventually start applying this camouflage pattern on the left side of the hull. Now, if there was that storage bin there that's supposed to be there, it would make the painting a lot hard, but because I didn't like the look of it, things are a lot easier, with it being a whole flat plate and all. I am mixing my second attempt at the green gray, and I just wanted to make this read as green as I possibly could, didn't want it to be blue. So, just like the last attempt, I am starting off with green gray, but as opposed to white, I actually add some dark yellow to it. So yes, I added that Dunkelgelb, and now I'm adding khaki. Could I have gotten away with not adding khaki? Probably, but like I said before, you're essentially seeing the same thing I am. It's very experimental. Like I said, we're adding the khaki, and then I'm going to be adding off-white. So the color I'll be adding next is their field gray. Field gray and green gray are kind of different in my opinion. I think green gray reads a bit more brown than green, and I want this color to be as green as possible. In fact, what I'm going to be adding next is Vallejo's NATO Green, just because I want this color to read as green as possible. Don't want it to be blue. What I'm doing now is taking this new color and just applying it over the old one, as well as places which it should be in general, like those side skirts which I added off camera. I'm also putting this camouflage on the turret, which I'm doing simply just by building up those lines on the top of the hull. What I'm doing now is mixing the second camouflage color, that would be the slate. Now I'm quite happy with my first attempt at it. I actually didn't have to go over and repaint everything the second day after I applied it. The color I'm starting off with is Vallejo's Field Gray as opposed to their green gray. Just like the silver gray, I wanted this to be as green as possible, and I just didn't want to, fuss with that color later on. So I also end up adding German Gray. I absolutely love this color. It's what I use for pretty much everything that's supposed to be black, because I don't have black, and in 72nd scale, it doesn't really matter. So basically what I am achieving is a really dark greenish gray, if you couldn't tell already, and I actually end up achieving this color. I lightened it up a bit with some white and some Dunkelgelb, and to make it read more green, I once again add some NATO Green. So here's a quick 360 of the tank in the two camouflage colors. I know there's a little bit of it slayed on. That is actually what I used to test the color, and the reason why nothing has been painted yet is because I'm just consulting my reference off screen and just trying to figure out where I'm going to start applying that slate. I do eventually figure out where to start laying down this slate color, and it's in a very inoffensive spot because here's the thing, I have very little of that silver gray left, and I just want to avoid as many accidents as possible. Yes, because I'm using a darker color, I can just extend the lines of the colors, but I mean, I just want to avoid as many mistakes as possible. Here is the finished paint job, at least the contour, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. Yes, it's not perfect, nothing I ever do is, but I think for a second attempt, especially on this small of a vehicle and behind a camera, I think I did a pretty good job with this camouflage pattern. If anything, my current colors are a lot more accurate than my previous ones. Speaking of color accuracy, of course I have to bring in that Crusader. And oh, there it is. And yeah, here are my two contour paint jobs next to each other. Yes, they're not perfect, but I just want to show you that yes, you can achieve this type of paint job with a brush. However, the painting isn't all for this, Vickers, because I am making it a captured Italian vehicle, and that involves painting white. Yes, over all of that camouflage work I did on the turret. It kinda hurts, but I mean, content, am I right? In addition to the white, I'm going to be painting some red and green stripes, which you'll be seeing in a little bit. But here I am, just building up that white. So I'm pretty happy with the level of white I have, and now I am going to start applying the red. Now, I don't have a flat red. This is actually Vallejo's Cavalry Brown. I actually really love this color. It works good, you know, in lieu of an actual red, but I think it also would work well for red oxide chips, for rusts, and I think even certain leathers in small amounts. So after I paint these red stripes, naturally I'm going to have to paint some green ones. I used Model Air's NATO Green for this, and I wasn't really happy with how it turned out, probably just because it's a Model Air color and I had to build up multiple coats. Was this helped by me painting it over white? Not at all, but this ended up being very frustrating and I did a lot of it off camera. So here it is, the fully painted Vickers Mark 6. You know, it's not the most perfect paint job ever, but I am quite pleased with how it turned out. Not only do we have that contour going on, we also have those Italian stripes, which I chose not to extend to the back of the turret, just because I wanted to keep as much contour as I could on it. Now guys, I think this just brings us to the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching, especially if you've stuck around this long, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please consider liking and maybe even subscribing. It really does help this channel out. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Whenever that is.